Okay, and we're live. Welcome. So welcome to Vrashank, Jain. I'm Gaurav Chawla. This is a special edition, a live edition, streaming live on X of the Praxi Pod, and this is Andrew Turner, host of the Praxi Pod. And today we're streaming it live from two locations, from London, where I'm based, and also from Las Vegas at Dell Technologies World. So welcome, Vrashank. Welcome, Gaurav. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
So in terms of introductions, I mean, maybe Vrashank, if Gaurav, you could do a quick intro and just explain what your roles are at Dell Technologies.
Yeah, sure. I can go first. My name is Vrashank. I'm part of the product team. I lead the product team for the AI data platform at Dell Technologies, and I've been here about 7 years now. So I'm very excited to speak with you.
Yeah, cool. And I'm Gaurav Chawla. I'm a Dell Fellow and in the Enterprise ISG Chief Technology Office. I lead all our efforts related to both storage and data for AI.
Fantastic.
How we make data easily discoverable and consumable for AI.
Fantastic. So I presume you both work within Arthur's division. Is that how it fits together? Is that right? Yeah, Arthur Lewis?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, cool. You know, so for anybody that's watching this live stream, then you're probably aware that there is a slightly large event going on in Las Vegas. I think it's the Mandalay Bay or there's a Venetian you're at. Is that right?
This is the Venetian for the second year in a row.
Yeah. So it's incredible, actually, because Dell, I was just looking at the history of Dell, actually. It's 1984, so it's 41 years ago that Dell was founded. And but actually, I suppose on your 40th anniversary, what I noticed, and obviously from the keynotes this week, that you launched version 2 of the AI factory, kind of a really hot topic with the NVIDIA relationship with Jensen. So for anybody that's listening to this little mini episode, how you describe that? You know, everybody's talking about AI, everybody's talking about data. What does that mean to Dell and your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I can do a 30-second version, and then Gaurav, I'm sure you can add. For us, I think the AI Factory 2.0 is all about, well, let me start with AI Factory 1.0, which was all about how do we get the GPU infrastructure and the AI sort of horsepower into the hands of the customers. What we've since realized is one of the big roadblocks or sort of the key success criteria for any AI use case is actually getting the data into the hands of the AI workload as well. And so the AI Factory 2.0 is all about how do we bring that AI closer and closer to the data, which means we need to innovate across the board, across our storage platforms, across our data engines. And all of those things need to come together along with all the innovations that's coming out of the NVIDIA sort of GPU efforts. And when you combine the NVIDIA AI platforms with NVIDIA data platform, with the Dell server lines and the storage lines, the data platforms, that's when we think magic truly happens.
Okay.
The other way to think about it is that last year we announced AI Factory, which was AI Factory 1.0, and it was all about offering best of breed, most powerful compute platforms for AI across the industry. The denser and both air cooled and liquid cooled, highly dense GPU servers. You could run really large language models, reasoning models, everything on these compute clusters with networking integrations. And this year we're doing AI Factory 2.0, which expands that compute to a full AI Factory solution, which brings in storage, compute, data processing all together under one solution.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, I've got a technology background, but as well as yourselves. But so is it the latency that you were finding? Is it that thing about moving the data closer to the AI or the AI closer to the data? Is that what you've done with the 2.0 version? Is you saw some bottlenecks there? Is that what's kind of
Our focus is to bring AI wherever the data lives. And that's why you see in both Michael's announcements on day 1 and Jeff Clark and Arthur Lewis announcements on day 2 that we bring AI everywhere, whether it is edge or data center or cloud. And your data may live anywhere. If it is edge, we offer our client-side compute platforms, workstations that can process data on the edge and run reasoning models at scale. And if you have data in your backend data center or cloud, then you use our AI Factory, which comes with its own high-performance storage, tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, with backup recovery, data protection, cyber resilience, all that integrated. And we do right-sizing for different AI outcomes that customers may want to achieve. We right-size the compute platform, we right-size the networks, we right-size the storage platforms, we right-size the data processing engines, and deliver the whole thing as a solution in the AI Factory.
You know, the traditional centralized data center, then with a wide area network to all the different locations. But you're saying now that the AI workload, if you were in a certain role, needs to be actually at the point, at the actual edge, and they have to have the power of the compute there as well. And that's obviously where the data sits. So you've got this mixed. What you're saying is you've got data mixed in decentralized and centralized, which is I suppose, it makes it more complex.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the whole notion of data having gravity. And if the data is being created at the edge, sometimes the best decision that you could make is really at the edge itself, rather than having to move all of that data to the data center.
Yeah.
And so really, at that point, you're going to have to move the AI processing to the edge, because that's where the data is being generated. Now, some part of the data is going to come back to data center, obviously for future training and fine tuning. But the most valuable decision you can make is in the store, in the bank, at the site, right? So that's one aspect of it. We also believe there's a tremendous amount of data being generated on premise, and all of that data is highly valuable for a lot of enterprises. And so there is a greater need for more AI processing on premise. We know that the TCO for on premise AI is significantly better over the long term, against the cloud. And if the data is there, and if the long term TCO is advantageous, we believe the data center AI and data revolution is really what we're starting to go on.
Andrew, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is that in the real deployments, it's not about moving data around across different geographic locations or between edge and data centers. It's about moving the knowledge you derive from the data and move that knowledge to the right place where the next level of decision making needs to be done.
I mean, it's that thing about it's that lift and shift thing, isn't it? I mean, there's been a big initiative, for the last, definitely over 10 years. Let's move everything to the cloud. But then, what I took out of the keynotes, watching the keynotes of the last couple of days, was that that utopia, or that nirvana that obviously people are, were buying into. But it's a mixed workload, isn't it? You don't, you put everything, every data, every app in the cloud. Right. And I think what came across strongly with the Dell keynotes and what you've just been saying there is that we live in a hybrid world. We live in a centralized, decentralized world. You're going to have both, but you have to have reliable, integrated systems between both environments, and that's what I think you got with Dell.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see models popping up pretty much everywhere. I mean, the models are popping up in some of our AI PCs. NVIDIA launched something what they call the DGX Spark, which is this tiny 6-inch
that really small one.
device. Yeah, and so if you can imagine running a very high performance LLM that used to maybe 9 months ago only be the purview of a data center, you can imagine that LLM revolution coming, in which it's going to get embedded in every tiny little device almost everywhere. So AI PCs, small DGX pods, edge servers, sort of some of the low power ones, but obviously on the data center.
And what we are seeing is that this whole adoption of generative AI and reasoning models and agents that are coming next is really accelerated this data processing and journey on the AI. People tried to do 3 years, 4 years ago with traditional AI and the classification and recommendation and the models that existed before this, but it was a lot more complex, and there was these whole complex concepts of feature stores and other things that you had to do to really use AI to derive value. And it's just gotten so simplified now with generative AI.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope. I mean, obviously there's SLMs as well now. I think there's small language models, I believe. Everybody, because I remember last summer there was like that. I don't know if it's probably still around, that league table. Like how many billion. There's like a league table of all the LLM models, and it's like who's top of the pops this week. It was kind of like quite amusing. I thought everybody's vying to be the, like the LinkedIn posts were like, oh, we've got a new model and it's this and it's that. It's all that kind of thing. But it's at the end of the day, that was kind of, I suppose, that kind of hype cycle we were in, and now it kind of calms down and you get down to the practical reality. So I suppose one of the things I noticed from the stats from the last couple of days, though, is you got over 3,000 customers have already bought into the AI factory. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, in such a short space of time.
It is. It really is. I mean, I think some of our AI server lines has been one of our fastest growing server lines, probably in history. And I think we just made the right decision at the right time to start getting onto this 8-way GPU bandwagon, which I think before ChatGPT, somebody would call it crazy. Why would you ever need that much horsepower? And now we're basically saying that's not enough. We need to go much, much further. So it has rapidly increased. What we're also seeing is this isn't just the realm of a few large companies. It has come down to from the top 10, tech companies in the world, this is now starting to percolate across the enterprise. Companies big and small are starting to realize they need to get onto this somehow, right? Whether that's either leadership in the model development or just leadership in RAG or other things. So I think we're just going to see that 3,000 number, double, triple fairly soon, because there's just so much.
Don't mention any numbers, because then when Michael Dell sees this video, he's going to hold you to the numbers. 10x, 20x.
There you go. That's right.
I mean, it's interesting because I think that I suppose, because I used to be on the customer side, I used to work for GE and Tesco. Right? Seeing what you have now presented last couple of days is very compelling. If you're a CIO, you're a senior leader in a business, because you have got like a truly turnkey solution.
Yeah.
You've got software and hardware, which I think is very, very attractive, because that's going to collapse the amount of time to get something working. Because it's that time to value equation, isn't it? About how you actually get something really tangibly in the production, and you can learn from that and then iterate on it.
Yeah, I think there's one element of this, which is it's not just about the technology, right? Because I think the technology is only going to get better every month. What we're also seeing is, and this happened to us as well, which is internally, we have more use cases than we can actually implement. And so we really had to select the right shortlist, or prioritize the right use cases that made the most sense based on what we do as a company. And when you get going quickly, but you solve small problems over time, you start to build enough momentum to start becoming, get much further ahead, rather than trying to address this as a big, a 5-year project in which you're going to put every effort into it and solve every use case imaginable. We think that strategy sometimes fails, and the right thing to do is to get going quickly, but get going small, right? Find the right use cases that give you quick ROI, prove the value, and keep going further and further.
And leading with Dell's own internal transformation with AI, that was Vrashank was talking about, it's also helping us build the right solutions for the customers. And out here means both Vrashank and I have been in many different customer discussions, and the feedback has been very positive as we're going from AI Factory 1.0 to 2.0. We're really expanding rather than giving the compute side of the AI. We are now offering a full solution end to end, which brings storage, compute, data, networks all together. And the feedback has been very positive, because we've gone all in on offering the best reasoning models and distilled models, the smaller models that we were talking about, with different partnerships we have brought in place. And we're also bringing the data platform services and knowledge retrieval services and other services that are needed to achieve AI outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really, really great that Jeff Clark yesterday talked very authentically about your internal experience, and he was sharing kind of like, it's not all been rosy. It's been quite difficult, and actually, prioritizing, and you had all these initial projects. You had like, I don't know, hundreds of projects that were AI projects across the whole of Dell.
Oh yeah.
And yes, and we've all worked in large organizations, and I was smiling when he said that, because I was thinking, yeah, that sounds like where I've been before as well. So actually, but him explaining that internal story, I think then allows people the execs in the audience to realize that actually, nobody's perfect, so they can relate to it, and then they can say, oh, well, that means we could actually apply some of that knowledge into our business and go back to the office and actually start getting on with something. So that was really encouraging.
No, I agree. And I think one of the good decisions we made, and I think is something we tell all our customers as well, is focus on the core of your business, right? When you make these decisions about the priority of your use cases, focus on what you do as a company, right? So as Dell, we picked 4 use cases based on the 4 main things we do as a company. We design products, we produce products, or we supply products, we sell them, and then we support them. And those are the 4 use cases we have, which is, we have code generation for our software engineering teams to design products. We have supply chain AI agents that help produce and supply the products in the right way. We have sales chat agents to help our sales reps sell those products. And then we have a next best action agent that helps our support teams diagnose and repair the products.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 most important things. And that's what's going to get you the best ROI, because that's where you likely have the most amount of data, most experience, and the most clear point of view as to what good looks like.
And it's also looking into the process life cycle, to say, okay, which part of the process is most human intensive or most complex, that it takes the most amount of time, and that will make sense to accelerate with AI, either by providing a co-pilot or an autonomous agent that actually helps the human user.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting that I mean, obviously, I've got a retail background, so the Lowe's experience from the lady that came on stage with Michael on Monday was really, really good, because it showed what you can do. Because obviously, you've got that frontline customer on the shop floor kind of interaction. Obviously, the JPMC case is a very good case as well. But obviously, people sometimes see JPMC as being like, stratospheric in their kind of progress. Can you?
Some of the buildings truly are.
Especially that new building they're going to build as well. Yeah, it's New York. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jamie Diamond. But I mean, the Lowe's one I think was probably more accessible to me, because obviously I've worked in banking as well as retail. But I think it's it just shows that when you get people like that on stage with Michael and with the executive leadership team, it makes it more real, because it kind of like, sometimes you can see the PowerPoints and everything like that, and you think, actually, is this being done on the ground floor? And you saw from those case studies real live that there's some real progress being made. So I think it sounds that, the rhetoric that happened in 2022 and the whole thing about ChatGPT, it's really good to see people actually adopting it and actually doing it at scale, because sometimes people shy away from that. They do the pilot, they control the pilot, and they make all the data perfect and pristine. So they've got good results from the pilot, but they never get to production, because you can't, when they scale it up, they get a problem. So it sounds like you've kind of started to crack that problem, which is great. So I suppose the final question.
Oh, sorry. Just point of add was, there was just, for me, I think, more than the Lowe's and the JP Morgan example, I think for me the third example was actually the most hard hitting, which was just a person in Australia trying to design an application that will help learn new languages, especially for his own children. I mean, that just told me that this is not just the realm of, the top 10, 50 Fortune 500 companies. This is now in the hands of pretty much everyone out there. It's really just a question of, how do you get started, and do you have enough motivation to just keep going? This is going to be a learning experience. It's not easy, but it is becoming more accessible.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from the day one keynote was AI is going to be in life, in everybody's life, whether it is industry verticals like financial or retail or healthcare, or it's consumers. Yeah. But AI is going to impact all of our lives. And if you listen to the day two keynote, the good takeaway from day two keynote is that over the last 2 years, I think we've really transitioned as a company to be 100% focused on AI. All the announcements that were done, whether it was servers, it was storage, it was consumer devices, it was workstations, it was compute platforms, data platforms, backup recovery, cyber resilience portfolio, everything is linked to AI outcomes as a company. That's what Michael's been doing.
It's okay.
Is what's the kind of the future? What are the things that's keeping you up awake at night, kind of thing? What are the bits that you haven't done yet that you want to try and do? So when we fast forward to the Dell Technology World 2026, what are the things in the data space and in your role, Gaurav as the CTO, the fellow, and also you on the product side, Vrashank? What are the things that customers are saying? I wish you could address this problem. What are the top three big problems you're trying to tackle in the next 12 months?
My top would be, I think the biggest thing for me is the data is the fuel for AI. And we need to make sure that we curate, we transform, and we make it seamless for our customers on how that data gets consumed by different AI outcomes. Whether somebody is doing training, they're doing inferencing, they have a retail use case, they have a financial use case. We want to make all different kinds of data types be curated and seamless as you feed it into different AI models and agents and different technologies. The technology will evolve over time, but we want to make sure that we are on the leading edge of leading this transformation.
Okay. Anything from you, Vrashank?
Just being a product manager, I'm going to be a lot more short term, because I think in quarters. Gaurav thinks in years. But for me, I think it's going to be all about. There's still so many hard data problems that companies are looking to solve, but they're not just generative AI based. They're going through a data modernization initiative because they're looking to solve the data problem, not just for Gen AI, but also for traditional AI and BI. And I think if they had those initiatives before, they've just now started to realize they needed this initiative yesterday. Because if they're going to make those investments, they better make it with an eye towards the future, which is the generative AI. So for us, I think it's all about going from the traditional structured data sets that used to dominate those discussions to unstructured data, because now that's the realm of the generative AI workload. So it's now all about docs and PDFs and images and videos. It's not tables and rows only, columns and rows. So I think for me, that's going to be a big part of our transition later this year, which is we'll start to talk a lot more about how do you extract more value from unstructured data sources, because we think that's the next frontier.
Or semi-structured, in a lot of the regulated industries, the regulated industries we're working in, it's forms. There's a lot of forms, and you've got to understand the metadata behind that, and you've got to then, to Gaurav's point, you've got to curate it, you've got to make it available for downstream analytics. So, the work's all continually going to keep us busy for quite a while, I think.
Exactly.
No, fantastic. That's great. So, thank you very much for coming on the Praxi Pod. Nothing like having a live version of the Praxi Pod from Las Vegas, and hopefully looking forward to next year being with you in person. But thanks for the time, Gaurav, Chawla, and Vrashank Jain from Dell. And that was Andrew Turner, the host of the Praxi Pod. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.